Hey guys, it's Misty from the Book Rat, and it is time for a book chat. Since my last book chat, which was Bookish Letdowns and Disappointments, I've been promising a follow-up that kind of includes some of the things that I almost put on that Bookish Disappointments list, but that I actually ended up kind of coming around on. So today's topic is second chance books. Now this may be either I've given the book a second chance and ended up changing my mind on it, or maybe I've given the author a second chance with other books and was pleasantly surprised to find out that I liked it the second time around. And I think it's probably pretty self-explanatory, so I'm gonna go ahead and get straight into it. First up, and this is one I think is kind of the biggest shock to me, and the one that I talk about the most, and it's an author, and that is Sarah Beth Durst. The first book I read by her was a book called Ice, which is a retelling of the fairy tale East of the Sun, West of the Moon. To be fair to it, I had read two other retellings of the same tale that I liked much more, so I was probably comparing it pretty heavily to those. I had a lot of issues with Ice, and I won't go into all of them here. I believe I have reviewed it in a kind of mini review where I actually compared all three retellings, so I'll link that below so you can kind of see what was going on there and what threw me off. But basically I disliked it strongly enough that I didn't think I would ever read anything else by her. I thought, this is not my style, she's not my type of writer, I'm not into this at all, and that was kind of gonna be that. But then the cover was put up for a new book she had coming out. Now this was a few years ago, and it had the shortest little synopsis ever, but it was so like quirky and cutesy and fun that I was like, maybe I should reconsider my policy. And that book was Drink, Slay, Love, which just sounded so silly, and I figured, okay, I'll give her another chance. And I read that and it was so funny and enjoyable, and I really, really enjoyed it. That was redundant. So I was like, okay, so maybe she's gonna be the hit and miss author for me. But seriously, I kid you not, every book I've read by her since then, I've liked more and more and more. Vessel and Lost are two of my absolute favorites. They're so strong in the world building and the characters and the writing style and like everything I didn't like about Ice. Like, she nails. So it had to have just been either maybe a combination of the fact that I was comparing it to other established stories that I liked, or it didn't give me what I want, or maybe it was my mood at that time, or it could just be because she's sort of experimental and she does something completely different every single book out of the gate, and maybe that just wasn't the one for me. But every single one of her since then that I have read, I have loved, and every other one that she has written is on my to-read list. So if there is any argument for second chance books, for me, Sarah Beth Durst is that. And the idea that you can absolutely hate something and find it meritless and then have the author of it become one of your favorite authors speaks volumes to why you should just give things second chances. And that's coming from someone who really doesn't give second chances. A book, an individual book that I gave a second chance to and had a complete turnaround is The Hollow Kingdom by Claire B. Dunkel. It's a little bit of a weird one for me because when I started reading it, I was in love with it the first time around. And then something happened, maybe about halfway through, or I didn't like the way it ended, or something, I don't know what it was. Maybe I just thought it was going to be a different book than it turns out to be. Whatever the reason was, when I was done with it, I was angry at this book. But then years later, I was finding myself still thinking about the characters and kind of wanting to finish the series, and I was like, look, the book couldn't have been that bad if you're still thinking about and caring about these characters, Misty, get your shit together. So I picked up a used copy and reread it, and I don't know if it's because I had different expectations this time around, or again, if it was mood. I loved it. I loved it all the way through. I can't remember what it was that I didn't like about it. I don't see anything in it that I would have disliked about it. I still hardcore love these characters. I don't know what was going on with my brain, why it didn't gel there. Really goes to show that your mood can really affect your reading, and where you are in life and the styles that you're looking for at the time can really have an impact on how you interpret a book, because Misty that didn't like that book is not even recognizable to the Misty who loves that book. I have no idea what happened there, but totally different opinions on it, and so glad that I gave it a second chance, and I ended up buying the rest of the series. Haven't read them yet, but I have high hopes. I'm gonna try not to have too high hopes though, because I don't want to have that weird thing happen again, so we'll see. And speaking of individual books and kind of series, this is actually something that I touched on in the biggest letdowns, and that's Pride and Prejudice and Zombies by Seth Grahame-Smith. Now, I have not given this a second chance, and I will not. So, we're not even going there. I hated that book. Oh, so much. But I thought the idea behind it was so fun and interesting and had so much potential that when the rest of the series came out and was by a different author, this time Steve Hawkinsmith, when Quirk Books asked me if I wanted to give them a shot, I said, fine. I looked into Steve Hawkinsmith first, and he seemed like he maybe respected Austen a little bit more than Seth Grahame-Smith did. I sometimes get the feeling that Seth Grahame-Smith actually hated Austen, and that was why he wanted to rewrite it. I said yes to those, and I actually really liked them. They were fun, they were what I was expecting from the first book, the first time around, and I felt like the potential was recognized. They were what Pride and Prejudice and Zombies should have been. A lot of my sort of second chancers are very popular authors that I did not like the first time around. And I don't know if I've maybe given them second chances because other people rave about them, so I think, well, am I just wrong? Or if it's because they keep coming out with these books that are so hyped and the synopses sound cool, and I think, well, fine, I'll give you one more chance, but this is the last chance. And sometimes it works out. So I was very much not a fan of Maggie Stiefvater after I read Shiver. People are always surprised by this and always ask me, like, why didn't you like Shiver? I get that question a lot. And it's all the reasons. I found that book so wooden and just cardboard. The characters were lifeless. I liked the male character, the male lead. Didn't find him very realistic, I guess, but, you know, I liked him, but the main female character was a faceless entity to me. I mean, she had zero personality, made worse by the fact that I was really anticipating it and was really excited for it. So, didn't necessarily think I would ever read anything by her, though I did buy more books in the Shiver series because I found them really cheap and because I'm that kind of idiot. I don't know. I still haven't read those, though. But for the Wednesday YA book club that Liz and I used to do, we read The Raven Boys, which I knew Liz was going to pick. I knew she was going to make me read it. In fact, I'm pretty sure she was the one that gave me it. And I was so not looking forward to it. I didn't want to. I just really didn't want to read it. And I was upfront. I was like, look, if I hate this, I'm not finishing it. I don't care. I'm going to give this like 40 pages. And then if it's not winning me over, I'm done. And I liked it. I liked it a lot. Whatever. Maggie Stiefvater, I guess you people win. And then a month or two ago, when I first started doing first impressions videos, I read the beginning to the Scorpio races, because yes, I have that too. Why I kept ending up with Maggie Stiefvater books, even though I thought I wasn't gonna like her, I don't know, that's my life. But I read the beginning to that and it was kind of kick-ass, so I'm just gonna say that Shiver was a fluke. I'm gonna write that series off, but I think I'm actually a fan of Maggie Stiefvater now. Who knew? Same with Libba Bray. She is, again, someone that has a lot of fangirls and a lot of people that love her. And love especially the A Great and Terrible Beauty series. Now, I have read that whole damn series and I'm angry about it still. The reason being, I was taking part in a reading challenge. I made myself slog through all 3 books. I had read A Great and Terrible Beauty well before, like probably a year or 2 before, and didn't like it, didn't intend to continue on. And the fact that I somehow managed to read the other 2 books that just get progressively longer and worse to me, still, I'm a little salty about that. But Libba Bray has some really, really interesting plot ideas and this quirkiness that I really like. So even though I hated those books, it didn't stop me, again, from buying more books by her. Now, I haven't read them all yet, but I did read Beauty Queens, and I was sent a copy of The Diviners when it came out, and read that, and adored it. It was so good. It was so strong. It was a very long book that I didn't hate that it was long, and that's a rarity for me. Everything else I've read by her has really won me over, so again, I'm just gonna write that series off. A Great and Terrible Beauty never happened. I like Libba Bray, and we'll just pretend that was written by someone else. So all of those things have won me over in completely different ways, but yet in the same way. Sometimes you just don't gel with things, and then you really, really gel with other things. Now, does that mean that I should give second chances to some of those other people, like the ones I talked about in the biggest letdowns? You know, should I try to read more by Becca Fitzpatrick and Lauren Kate and Dan Brown or Cassandra Clare? Like, should I be giving them more of my time on the hopes that it was a fluke there too and they'll win me over? Even talking about all of these excellent second chances that have worked out for me, I still am really hesitant on that, especially in the case of those people, because a lot of times I can excuse away first books or even second books by saying, you know, the author's going to grow and they're going to kind of work through those bad habits and develop really strong relationships with their editors, and they're going to get feedback from their readers, and you know, they're bound to grow and change, and I'll like their styles down the line possibly. It's a little fine-tuning. But when you have very successful books and series right out of the gate, the more successful you become, the more free rein you're given to tell the story exactly the way you want to tell it with less editorial input. Now, that's not to say that there's not editorial input, but you are able to kind of haggle a bit more and put your foot down a bit more because you're bringing in the money. People don't want to lose out on that. Sometimes that really can work to an author's detriment because they are allowed to run wild a little bit more and wallow in all of their bad habits. If you've ever read Laurel K. Hamilton, you know damn well what I'm talking about, because if there is ever anyone who has just been allowed to run free with her damn bad habits and no one put their foot down, it's Laurel K. Hamilton. And because all those people, Dan Brown, Cassandra Clare, Becca Fitzpatrick, they've had these really successful series, I feel like maybe the learning and the growing isn't necessarily happening. They're probably being allowed to do what they want, and why wouldn't they? Because they have been successful at it. Clearly there's an audience for the stories that they're telling. It's obviously not going to be just changed to suit me and to suit a new audience that maybe isn't there. So I'm still hesitant, you know? Just because sometimes giving a second chance has worked out doesn't mean I always want to give second chances. And, you know, sometimes it works in reverse. There have been people whose books I really, really loved the first time around that I didn't like follow-ups. I loved The Time Traveler's Wife, but I've hated every other thing that I've read by Audrey Niffenegger, and I've given up on her. I loved Before I Fall by Lauren Oliver, but I really, really didn't like Delirium, and have been hesitant to try anything else from her. Or like, you have someone like Robin McKinley who writes such hit and miss books. I can adore her books or find them complete dreck, and there really seems to be no in between. You know, it goes both ways, and it can be kind of completely based on like mood and instinct and what color I'm wearing that day on whether I will decide to give someone another chance. There are those books and those authors that I'm curious about. Maybe I should try more Marie Lu, because everyone seems to love the young elites. Then again, everybody seemed to love Legend too, and I did not. So, yeah, it's just, it's a coin toss sometimes, but what I'm saying is, even though it might not always benefit, it is good to at least consider the possibility of giving a book or an author a second chance, because sometimes, as I said, they can become your favorites. That's that. That's the chat. I don't know how to end that, really. Just, you know, sometimes it's worth it and sometimes it's not, and who the hell knows until you try, I guess. So I'm definitely looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say in the comments. Let me know if there have been books that you've reread and either loved or hated the second time around, or authors who you've given a second chance and been like, whoa, did not see that coming, now I kind of like them. Something to talk about too, and maybe we can do this for a future chat, so let me know if you want to see it. But there are those books that you loved as a kid that the older you get, you kind of look at and think, I probably would really not like that now, but I'm not going to read it because I don't want to ruin the happy memories that I have. So, you know, that's kind of a part of the second chances too, is saying absolutely not. Not going there because I don't want to kill it. So kind of let me know your thoughts in the comments and where you stand on second chances. If you're someone who absolutely refuses to give second chances, let us know that too. But that's all for now. If you have ideas or topics that you'd like to see covered in a future book chat, or please let me know. And as I said, I'm looking forward to chatting with you in the comments or on Twitter or wherever books can be talked about, which is everywhere. But that is all for now. As always, thanks for watching and happy reading!